Onur Tukel, it's been about 10 months since we talked. We talked in January. You and I and Sajua got together to kind of do an overview of your career because I had just recently got on board the Owner train, checking out a whole bunch of your movies over the course of a
Cool.
couple of weeks. You instantly became one of my favorite filmmakers,
Oh, thanks.
and now I'm happy to talk a bit of specifics because one of your films, Summer of Blood, just came out on a great Blu-ray from
Yeah.
Factory 25. And there's a couple other things I want to get to, but first of all, how are you doing, man? What have you been up to?
I mean, I'm good and bad. I'm horrible and wonderful. I just took a trip to North Carolina to see my brother, which was great. But to be there without my mother because she died last year, it was fucking devastating and depressing. And at the same time, wonderful. But how am I? I just got back from that trip. I'm now focused on some creative projects that'll hopefully take me out of my despair or whatever it is I'm going through. I'm coming out of it. It was a dark kind of a period. It's a dark time. We're living in dark times. It's not just the dread of knowing we're going to die and being reminded that my mother is dead. It's I don't know. There's so much, the economy, and for me, it's like the nuclear bomb. When's the nuclear bomb going to go off? We've been manufacturing nuclear bombs for 40 years, 50 years, and it's like wait, more than that, fucking 70 years, right? When are we gonna use them? Because they're out there. So and because of Ukraine and Putin and everything, and the dread of that. Are we in denial about it? Or are we just like, hey, everything is a-okay, let's go back to binge watching our shows and writing about movies that don't matter and what does matter? We've made nuclear bombs. That's all I can say. For the young generation to have hostility towards the baby boomers and Gen X, I would think the manufacturing of nuclear weapons is something that we have created this disgusting fear now that we have to deal with because of big but much small dick energy from leaders around the world, the arms race, the Cold War. Anyway, yeah, it's how am I don't know. I need to make something. And I'm editing something now and we're producing a friend of mine's movie and working on a novel. But I always miss I want to get back to the filmmaking as soon as I can. Usually, you know what I mean. And because things are changing so quickly and things are changing so fast, obviously, I think I want to make a movie takes place every weekend, that we shoot every weekend, write it every week, almost like one of these shows that comments on the culture that's happening, but have it span 8 to 12 weeks and let it be about this moment of what the next 12 weeks will represent, which is stock market crash, nuclear bomb going off, celebrity deaths, deaths in our own family. I don't know. I'm rambling, man. I'm so sorry. It's just the question, how are you? I don't think I'm well, but I'm breathing. I feel, physically okay some days horrible. Anyway, I'm sorry, Ian, how are you? How are you and your family, the kids, your wife, your job, your life? How are things?
Things are going good. It's funny because, you bring up the paradox of our age, because in the last couple of weeks, we've had very serious discussions on the world stage about using nuclear weapons. And that is an ongoing discussion. And yet people are still talking about, the latest movie opening, the latest celebrity death, and all this trivial stuff. I I wasn't really around for much of the Cold War, at least sentient, right? But it definitely felt like there was more to be concerned about. I have a feeling we're going to be, Netflixing and chilling as the bright lights appear outside of our homes.
Sure, of course. Just
So you ask what matters. I feel like what matters is, I mean, on this scale, because we're not affecting global politics necessarily, uh, on the micro level, just do what makes you happy, try and be good to one another. And, if there is an afterlife, just make the best version of yourself so that when you show up, you're going to the right place.
and film and books and culture, they serve a need in those times of despair and crisis. We that's the thing. If we can't fully absorb the weight of the world, the weight of nations, the weight of 10,000 people dying at once, or 30 people dying at once? How can we allow ourselves to have despair about that, or really be affected by it? Because it's a dangerous place to get in, empathetic place to get into, because life is cruel, and the world, it's a cruel place. The world is a cruel place, and most people will get through, I think, and not die tragic deaths. But there are going to be, anyway. This is insane. Like, but I don't. For me, it's whatever. Or again, creativity. Because I don't. If I had a family, I'd probably be a lot more. Maybe. Listen, it's a podcast. I probably at this moment in the last 2 hours, thoughts have been going through my head, not crazy thoughts, but this is a reflection of what those thoughts are, or trying to work things out, figure things out, what are we doing? What am I doing? What the fuck what's going to happen?
Well, here's like a couple hours ago, not even, I was talking to my wife because she had seen something on Facebook, some story about a woman whose washing machine blew up. And so she had to get her family out of the house, and everything was fine, fortunately, but that she was like, make sure you have a plan in place for a fire. And my wife was like, do you ever think about this stuff? Because it's all I ever think about, like how we got to train the kids to be able to open the latches on their windows so they can escape if we can't get to them. I'm like, I tend to focus on the big things, like where's the best place to be to watch the bombs fall in the event of a nuclear strike, because that's stuff that we haven't seriously had to contend with for a few years. So we're talking about the same things, but just on a different scale. It's all sure. A mass neurosis.
Right. I think her whose concerns are more valid, you think? Who's preemptive, kind of trying to get things together, be prepared? Whose preparedness is better? You think it's better to know where when you're watching the bombs fall, like in a bar or in the safety of the city that's not being bombed, in a remote place, not in an urban dwelling, a city? Like, because you should, if you don't want to be, because Chicago might be nuked, right? It would be the place that would get nuked. So what the idea?
That's the thing, is like, people talk about what if they drop the bomb, and if things kick off, if Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines taught us anything, it's not going to be one bomb, it's going to be all of them. So there is really no place to go. That's why, did you ever see the movie Miracle Mile with Anthony Edwards?
No.
It's about the end of the world,
right? Yeah.
1990, I think.
90, okay.
But at the end of it, there's a guy, I think played by Kurt Fuller, who just goes to the top of this building in the city to watch. He figures,
yeah, sure.
I'm just going to get drunk and watch this thing because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So you might as well just get taken out right away.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Speaking of really cheery topics, let's talk about the vampire movie you made.
Sure, of course. Yeah,
Summer of Blood,
horror comedy. Yeah, from 2000. I think I shot it 2013, the summer of 2013, and right after my father died. Actually, my father died about 8 years ago. I guess 9 years ago, and I made it the summer after. Yeah, the summer, the few months right after his death. It wasn't about his death, but I think in a lot of ways it gave me permission, his death, just to be a little unhinged. And I think the performance is very unhinged. And I would love to be able to go back that dark again, maybe. And, I like acting. It was a fun movie. None of them are really fun to make, but they're all kind of fun to make, and that was a good experience making that film. And that it was very good to me. We showed a work in progress at the American Film Festival in Wrocław, Poland, which was really great because a lot of programmers saw the film and it got invited to Tribeca. And then for the week that we showed at Tribeca, it was a great experience. Yeah, a lot of people loved the movie. Sold the movie. I ended up having a relationship with the person the company I sold the movie to, MPI Media Group. They funded a few films after that, and for a few years there, I was making some cool movies. I'm still making cool movies. I'm making the best movies of my life, but I don't have that kind of money. Not that it was a lot of money ever. It was never. I mean, I just made a movie for the same, but I'm not going to talk about the budget, but I just made a movie, a very low budget horror film again, and like Summer of Blood. I'm rambling. So what did you think? Had you seen the movie before, Summer of Blood?
Yeah, it was one of the bits of homework I did earlier this year when I was kind of boning up on your filmography.
After seeing Scenes from an Empty Church, you'd seen nothing of my work, right? You just seen that film, or?
Well, movie? I watched Scenes from Empty Church, Applesauce, the Wedding,
Richard's
Richard's
Wedding. Yep,
Wedding,
yep, yep.
right?
That's when we talked.
Cat fight.
You'd
Yeah,
seen those 4 when we talked, or even more than that?
I think I'd seen like 5 or 6
Oh
because,
man, amazing! Oh wow.
well, because I wasn't kidding when
Abby
I
Singer.
said
You said
like,
Abby. Yeah, you saw Abby
oh
Singer
yeah,
too. I
Abby
remember you
Singer,
saying. Yeah,
songwriter.
amazing that
My
you've
God, it
seen
might
that.
even be more than that. And I think there were a few that I held off on because it's kind of like when you discover your favorite novelist and they've written, 10 books, you don't want to go through all of them because you want to have something to like
Yeah,
explore
yeah.
later on.
Uh,
So
but
yeah,
sure, I could disagree. I can agree with that, yes. But I remember when Richard Yates, the novelist Richard Yates, who wrote Revolutionary Road and the Easter Parade, I remember when I read the Easter Parade, I loved it, put it down for years, and was in reading other different books and having a hard time finding something that I liked. I'm sorry, I'll be really quick with this. And then I read the Easter Parade again, and I thought, why am I not reading Richard Yates? I love the book is amazing, and I binge read all the books in the summer and his biography, and loved every second of it. I loved every word. It was like this great moment in my life of reading his work, and tried to read it again later with the whole white guy culture and stuff and the old white dude culture. It's hard to ingest now. At least I wasn't like, why am I reading about, I don't need to revisit this again, as much as I loved Richard Yates the first time.
what do you mean by the old white guy culture? Let's dig into that. I'm curious.
Yeah. The whole, I'm just tired of, oh man. Yeah. What do I mean by that? It's a feeling. And rightly so. Again, old white dudes, middle-aged white dudes made the atom bomb, right? So being held to task for some pretty egregious sins, and just like, that mindset, it's not just like it's just the mindset. I don't think it's fair, I'm trying to make a movie right now with an old white guy. I am an old white guy, although I'm Turkish, and I might have to start playing the Turkish card in order to, I don't think that's going to work for me. Playing any kind of card it's not going to work for me in terms of success, because I think my movies are just, it's a very specialized group of people, and I guess they would be considered, too edgy or maybe even dangerous. I've heard someone call them misogynist dangerous, which was a compliment, I think. That movie ends with a nuclear bomb at the end. I don't know if you've seen, where
I did, yeah.
And for me, I'm so sorry. I'm bouncing all over the place, Ian. I apologize.
I knew what I was in for when I asked you to talk about this stuff.
Misogynist, black magic for white boys. Old white guys are the Dylan Baker at the age of 61 or whatever his age is, late 50s, early 60s. Old white guy, conservative white guy in the movie. Lots of white guys. Black magic for white boys, the same. And a new movie that I just finished. Well, we're not really old white guys. A lot of people, young and old. Old white guys. I don't know, Ian. You know what the implications of that is. What that are. It's you guys have had the megaphone with art, politics, culture, art, politics, everything basically, commerce. You guys have had you've been in charge, which is not. I don't know. Wow, if that's what we're going to talk about, we can talk about that. Let's not talk about old white guys, though.
I'm curious because for a couple of things. One, I am half white. My dad was black, and my mom is white.
Wait, your dad was black, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like
you wouldn't know it to look at me. I'm perfectly honest.
I would never thought that you had even a black grandfather or grandmother.
No,
you look. You don't. There. I don't. It's all white.
Yes.
What?
That's my appearance. Yes.
But you're half black.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing when you're black. But you're. I mean, then it's like you're black. You're not white. You're black.
I'm mixed, I guess. I don't think about it.
Of course.
Here's the thing: like the conversations in the culture have me thinking more about my ethnic identity than I did for the 38 years before it became a thing, because my dad is dead. He's been gone for several years, but the way that people talk about race nowadays, I think he would have been pissed off, because when I grew up, it was the Cosby Show. I mean, it's a bad example probably, but there was a sense of racial kind of togetherness in the culture in the 80s and leading into the 90s that I felt was sort of, to use this probably a dangerous term, post-racial. To the point where to use another cliche, the color of the skin was about as important as the color of the eyes in my household.
Yeah.
And now I'm being inundated with all this conversation and stuff, and made to sort of feel guilty about stuff I had nothing to do with. I'm like, well, that's not fair. To your
Yeah.
point, like I'm not disagreeing that, whatever you want to call white culture has had controls or levers of power for a long time, and culture and things. But I guess my challenge would that be any different if it were any other race or ethnicity?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean,
If
come
the
on.
Wakandan reality
Of
were like
course,
the global
absolutely.
domination, would they be any less or
I
more
guess when it
corrupt
comes
than
to
we are?
Western civilization and how much of an influence the West has on the rest of the world, that's the ones that have been in charge of. Yeah, obviously the whites have been in charge of that Western culture. I guess Western Europe, I guess Eastern Europe as well, right? Then you get to the Middle East and of course Asia, and they've got their own. In Africa, and of course they're their own culture, their own thing. Right. So, and then of course South America and Canada, which that's not really a culture, Canadian culture. I'm kidding, of course. Everyone can joke about Canada, but so yeah, and they should, yes. So they happen to be winning out right now. They happen to be on top, and but America's different, I guess, than it's a different Western country, I guess, because of the immigrant population and the fact that, it is so multifaceted and colorful, if that's the right word. And I don't want to offend anyone if that's not the right word. But diverse because of immigration and because of all the different, and because of slavery, obviously, and all the Middle Eastern cultures that have immigrated here, including, of course, the Irish and the Italians and the Jews in the Middle East. And but so Italians and Irish and Jewish people, are they the white? Are they considered the white people, that the old white guys that should be silenced now? Is that what we're talking about?
They probably are now, but there was a time in the not too recent past when there was discrimination against
Oh, the
Irish and Italians.
of course, all of them. Yes, of course. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
everybody has their turn. I
Yeah,
guess, in terms of being
absolutely.
on top and at the
It's
very
not,
bottom.
and it's not just one group that's doing all the groups have taken their turns oppressing. Yeah, God, it's so absurd to talk. It's like hard to talk about because I'm like the last person who should be talking about race. I grew up, I am not afraid to address my own, the racism that I have, and even admit to my own racism. You know what I mean? I'd like to think that I love everyone and never judge anyone for the color of their skin or their culture or or socioeconomic status, which is not true. I judge people because of their socioeconomic status all the time. Homeless people on the streets, I could be extremely cruel in my head, although I try to buy off my guilt by giving money, yeah, racism, whatever. I have racist thoughts constantly, I try to be aware of them. It's almost like Tourette's, you know what I mean? But it's usually shielded in anger at someone who it's not racism, it's something else. It's not racism. It is racism. If you could read my thoughts, it's racism, but it is just a cruelty that comes from a debased thought process. When you're angry or pissed off, you're at the lowest point. You're an animal. You're basically an animal, and there's no discriminating. You'll kill anyone. Anyway, I
understand the sentiment.
Yeah.
The difference, though, and I think if we were to poll the people who are watching this, and even those who are not, and get them to answer honestly, I don't think there's any such person who can say, I've never had a racist thought, or I haven't had a racist thought in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's because, our minds are vast, beautiful, horrible things. And especially in today's age, we're taking in so much information and opinion and media that it gets all swirled around in the soup. And before you know it, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have thought that about that person. Or that's a judgment that has no basis in reality aside from some primal like guilt or hatred that comes from somewhere I haven't even identified yet. What matters is how you allow or don't allow that to affect the way you move about in the world, in terms of treating people, in terms of voting or setting policy. There's darkness in all of us along with light. It's just a matter of which one controls your actions.
Absolutely. But we can't negate or ignore or even try to push away the instinctual primal part of ourselves, which is anger and protection and tribalism in a lot of ways, which I think is ingrained in us. I can't expound on it because I don't have the vernacular, or I haven't thought it out enough to expound on it. I just feel like if you point your finger at someone and call them a racist and tell them why, and there's 1,000 reasons, and you can micromanage anything that someone does and say I can justify why that's racist. It's programming us in a way that denies our primal selves, and I don't know if you've seen the movie Tar. Have you seen the movie Tar yet?
No, I want to though. I've heard Cate Blanchett is phenomenal.
She's amazing. I love the movie a lot. I think it's great. I like Todd Field a lot, and I like Little Children. I love Little Children. And Little Children is a very in-your-face, not so subtle movie about petulant, middle-aged. Basically, yeah, it's all in the title, right there. It's not, you don't have to even. It's fucking brilliant and amazing. And Tar is nothing like it. Nothing like it. But I can't deny it because of what Cate Blanchett's character, I can't remember the character's name in the Tar. I mean, the character's name is Tar. So she calls a student a robot at some point because they're just reciting this. It's almost like I can't explain it. Good God, I wish I was smart enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough in the moment, and I haven't thought about it enough. It's just I think the robot as a term, how everyone can call you're transphobic or you're a racist, or I think the response to that, if they don't have a fair argument, is, well, you're a robot. And she says that in the movie, and it just hit me, man, in such a beautiful way, the simplicity of it, because she was right. And
well, there's another term that was popular like last year, an NPC in video game parlance, a non-player character. There's kind of the gray character, digital characters on the periphery that just, they're in the world that the actual players are interacting with, but they're just background filler. They don't have any thoughts of their own. So that's kind of what I associate with what you're saying.
Wait, say that again. My mind was wandering when you were saying that. Say that one more time. I apologize.
A non-player character is, say you're playing a video game and your character walks into a bar or a tavern to get information, and there's 50 patrons in this bar, and then there's the person you need to go talk to for the information. A non-player character is one of those other patrons in the bar. You see them, but they have no thoughts of their own. They don't actually interact. They're just kind of fillers to be the pawns of the game. They get up and they walk around because the game says, oh, the bar needs activity, it needs life, but they're not.
Well, I feel like
people.
I'm one of those people in life. I'm one of the non-playing characters.
What?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like that's what they're. Oh, you can't take. I guess I'm threatened by the whole old white guy culture in the sense that, hey, because what I'm an old white guy. I just can't say I can't say. I shouldn't speak. Just don't speak because your opinion doesn't matter. Okay, because you've had the megaphone for so long, but it's like, who has had the megaphone for so long? It's been a 1%ers. It's been people that have had broad reach. It's people with fucking power. And
right.
Most old white guys have not achieved power at all. They're downtrodden and have maybe achieved a little bit in their lives, but most people don't have the power to reach or to influence or.
Right. I mean, well, that's the thing. It's not. I don't think it's so much that, because I'll say as a generalization, most people do have the megaphone now because they've got phones, internet access. They can start a YouTube channel. All this stuff is free if you have the technology, and most people do. It's just that there's so many voices out there. I feel like in a lot of cases, downplaying the old power structure is just a way to magnify other voices, which is fine in a lot of cases. But I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to amplify at the expense of other voices and tell people you don't have a place to speak on this topic. Your opinion is not valid.
No, I think it's but you strip the people with power that have the money and the resources to get their voice the loudest, right? to try to strip them away, it is a power grab. It's like whatever. It's like usurping people off their throne or whatever, insurrection, or I don't know what you would call it, but it is like it's stripping someone of their power in order to replace them. Hey, it's our turn to speak. We'll do whatever we can to crush you because you did the same thing to get where you are. Like,
right, but here's my thing. Like that could apply to, I think, hypothetically, the one percenters, the billionaires, the people who are pulling the levers of power. I don't agree with the whole old white guy sentiment, because
100%.
someone could apply that to me. I'm 45, but I have built my life around, trying to love everybody, trying to give opportunities to everybody, man, woman, non-binary identifying, all different races.
Right.
Because I think people are generally beautiful, even though we're all kind of fucked up. So to have someone come at me, as you mentioned, like you look at me and you just see another white guy, and to say prima facie, like, no, you don't speak on this topic because it's someone else's turn. Like, well, I haven't even had my turn. I was not a slaveholder, 300 some years ago. In fact, half my family, there's a chance that they might have been owned by the other half of my family.
Right.
So where does that put me?
But you said I haven't gotten my turn. You've worked for it. You're putting yourself out there. You've got a podcast. This is very inexpensive to do, right? This is not expensive to do. Anybody can do this. So, you've chosen to do this, and you lend some. If you have the interesting things to say and change someone's perspective, or educate someone on a book or a movie, or just entertains them for an hour, that's great. You mission accomplished. That's what it's all about.
That's like I said, I don't like thinking about these things, because up until a few years ago, I would never think about, have I had enough people of color as guests on my podcast, but now it's something I think about. I don't give much credence to it, because I'm like, well, I have on who I have on. And I have had, many different kinds of people as guests on my show. But I feel like it'd be very easy for someone to look through my channel and say, oh, this person just has, white folks on, or straight folks, or whatever. And it's obnoxious, because that doesn't speak to me. And in that sense, I don't feel like the wider culture has anything to say, to recommend itself to me.
Yeah, if you want to keep expounding on that, I'll try to fill it in with something. But it's how often do you do this podcast? Like twice a week, once a week, once every
three times. I'm very, very busy. Yeah.
3 times a week you're doing this. That's amazing. Good God. That's a lot of, is it a lot of work, or is it just about 6 hours of work a week?
Oh no, it's this in combination with my day job is like and family. It's like I'm up all the time. It's a passion thing, Yeah.
Fuck yeah, passion. There's a lot of podcasts in my new movie, POUNDCAKE. It was a very I don't know, cheap way to move the story along, not move the story along, but throw in some social commentary, I guess, although I wouldn't even know what the fuck it is anymore,
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, actually, since you brought it up. Tell me about POUNDCAKE. I saw on Facebook that there was some kind of
I had a work in progress screen. I had a work in progress screen at the Charlotte Film Festival. And there was a hurricane. Ian was blowing through. I was actually thinking about you, because by the way, there's so many off-color jokes I would have made since this thing has started. Those days are over. Although I think that a certain middle-aged white guy would find them funny. It's like, okay, but other people would tisk. Anyway, POUNDCAKE, we had a screening at the Charlotte Film Festival. It was good. There was a hurricane. So a lot of people didn't show up who were supposed to show up. But a lot of people did show up. I mean, 40 people, not much, but in Charlotte Film Festival, 40 people is 40 people. And at a film festival, I'll take that. And they'd never seen the movie, and people, they loved it. They fucking loved it. And I could tell you watching it, like where it works and when it kind of dips, and then when I get the audience back. And of course, 40 people, and a lot of them are some of them are my friends. They're rooting for it. It's not necessarily an objective audience, but it's a movie about a killer who only kills straight white guys. He's only killing them, and And then what does the world think? What does New York think? What does a small population of maybe 30 characters in the city think of this? Some people obviously dismayed. Some people think they deserve it. Some people think it's a hoax that this is perpetuated to garner sympathy for straight white men. Because, you know, so I wanted to make a movie about the one victim that you could do horrible, the one demographic right now you could do horrible things to and still make fun of, kind of. And I'm fucking proud of it. I think it's a great movie, and I think it's so relevant and so timely. And I'm already preemptively kind of preparing for the festival rejection, you know, that's going to come. So I think I'm going to try to do something different, and just we're going to release it on our own. But after we get the requisite rejections, you know, over the next few months, you know. But it's a wonderful fucking movie. I'm so proud of it. It's low budget. It's shaggy. It's like Summer of Blood, although it looks better, and that way more epic, bigger characters, more locations. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I like.
So when did you make it?
We shot it December and January, December of 2021, January of 2022, while the whole COVID wave was just tearing through New York, and we had people getting COVID left and right on our crew and cast. And we shot it over a month or so, just piecing it together when we could. Oh man, it was treacherous and hard, and it was so fucking cold. It was so cold. And we're probably all dying of long-term COVID now. So sometimes you die for your art, you know? Did you get COVID during all this? I hate that we're talking about COVID, but God damn it, it's so hard to avoid. It's impossible.
No, it's very strange. I've not gotten COVID.
Yeah.
My oldest son got COVID, but he had no symptoms. And we quarantined him in his room for, ended up being 3 weeks, because we tested him after 2 weeks, and then it showed that he still had it. But during the entire time, the worst he got was annoyed that, you know, basically he would come out of his room, he'd have a mask on and all this other stuff. But I mean, for the most part, because it happened over the summer, he was just in his room reading and, you know, playing online video games with his friends, you know, out of state. So it was fine. And, you know, my wife, myself, our youngest, we didn't get it.
Well, you're lucky. That's fantastic. That's great. And you got vaxxed and boosted and all that stuff, right? Or...
Yeah, we just got I got the booster and the flu shot in the same arm like a week and a half ago.
Was it sore than normal, or, you know?
It just, you know, because I got 2 shots in the same arm, it felt like someone was punching me for about a day, and then the rest of, you know, after that was fine.
Yeah, I got COVID twice, and I probably have long COVID, I guess. I don't know if it's related to just my kind of dread, but I wake up sometimes, my body just feels just like, I don't know, arthritic. It's terrible. It's horrible, you know? And, you know, when I've gone through periods like this before, hoping it's my fibromyalgia or something, which, you know, maybe I'm not hoping that, because that's a terrible fucking neurological disease. Anyway, I don't want to go into my hypochondriacal tendencies right now. I'm so sorry. What the fuck are we talking about, Ian? We're talking about Summer of Blood, right? Well, it's a great, did you listen to the new commentary?
No, I haven't had a chance to listen to either of them. I understand. I wanted to ask you about that, because you recorded one in 2014.
8 years ago. Yeah.
And now there's a new one. I mean, there's a bunch of special features on there, but I wanted to ask you, without having listened to it, what is the difference between the two? Did you listen to your old one and then go record the new one? And
yes, I did. That's the reason I did it, because I wanted to see how much I've changed in 8 years, or what I agree with or disagree with on the commentary, or some new insights maybe that I didn't touch on the commentary. And it was wonderful. And, you know, vampires are a lot of it is about immortality. Maybe that's what draws us to it. The idea that we can't die. That's also a curse. The sexual aspect. I mean, the deadening, the being dead inside vampire aspect. I wanted to, I don't know, reflect on the last 8 years, and what Summer of Blood, how my life is no different. How in a lot of ways I'm frozen in time like a vampire. Like I've aged. I wanted to kind of embrace how much I've aged in the last 8 years. You know, if vampires don't age, how have I aged and how have I stayed the same? And, you know, Summer of Blood is about a man who doesn't want to get married. He wants to stay perpetually a bachelor, you know, fixated on himself, a solipsistic state of just himself. and 8 years later, I'm a bachelor still, and just living a life for myself, making art. Like I have not changed in that sense. And I talk about whether or not I could have a baby now, and I could if the chances, if it presented itself. I'm a lot less afraid of the things I was afraid of back then. I wouldn't want to have a kid at this age. I just turned 50. I don't think I would. If I won the lottery, or had the jackpot and had a lot of money, and I could have a nanny, and I wouldn't have to, work to take care of I'd want to be around the kid, and like nurture it, and be there to pollute its mind and destroy every sense of self that it has. But the idea of having to work a job I didn't want, which I do all the time. I work jobs all the time that I don't want, but I do it on my terms, obviously, the freelance and stuff, you can set the hours, but 9 to 5 again. I get this whole whatever generational thing about not wanting to be in the office. I think it's everybody doesn't want to be in the office now, right? It's not just the young kids. It's, I've always tried to avoid the office if possible, but now I would take an office job if it paid well and I liked the work. If I liked the work, if I believed in it, really, really loved the work, maybe.
What is it about the idea of being open to going to an office? Is it just like the kind of the set schedule and the place?
I'm only interested if the commute, it's very simple for me. And I think a lot of people might agree with this. If the commute was non-existent, if you could walk across the street and go to the office, or walk 15 minutes on a nice day, what a great walk. 15 minutes is nothing. And if you could walk instead of taking the subway for an hour or driving through traffic for an hour, I mean, getting to the office, that's another 2.5 hours on your life, or two. I mean, you have to get up earlier. You have to, I don't know, yeah, the commute. If it was across the street, that's what I mean. Working from home, I mean, across the street or a 15-minute walk. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't know why we're talking about this. But I get stressed out when I don't have money coming in. I need. You say that you got your day job and you're doing this 3 times a week, amazing, and taking care of, and being a husband and wife. How many kids?
2. Yep.
2 kids.
12 and 5.
I think did you tell me that last time? You may have told me that last time, right? Yeah,
probably.
That's really beautiful, man. I mean, and that I think you're very lucky, and you would probably say that before you'd say it, admit it immediately. Yeah. And you don't seem freaked out, or seem like you still have your collection of, are these books and DVDs or just books behind you? What is all that? And there's a little TV set, and
yeah, this is my wall of dead media. My first television
Nice.
sets up there, Nintendo. I think there's an 8-track player or something, and the rest are books and Funko Pops and a bottle of J&B Scotch. But that's strictly a prop. But yeah, I mean, I'm content. I mean, it's kind of like that Holly, the song by the Hollies, The Air That I Breathe. Do you know that one?
Maybe is it, but the Hollies, yeah, it's got like it's just nice. It's a good song. It's a good song.
Yeah, it's like from the 60s or the 70s. It's sometimes all I need is the air that I breathe and to love you. I think about that because it's like I'm happily married. I've got a career. I've got a passion. I've got my health, such as it is. Everything's great. I don't aspire. There's nothing. I think I've gotten to middle age, and the sense of existential dread it hits me sometimes, but it's like I'm just moving along.
Yeah, for sure. And the kids are happy, right? If the kids are happy, then that's really, you should be happy then. I don't know. That's a simplistic thing to say coming from someone who's not a father, but I would feel like their happiness is the most important thing, right? Obviously.
It is, but it also kind of freaks me out because they're excellent students, which is not something that I gave them. That's all my wife. So I kind of find it hard to relate. I remember the talks in school about like, you got to do better on your grades. And now it's like, I talked to my oldest son about like, well, can you do any better than straight A's? Can you get straight plus A's? I don't know.
Yeah. How often you pull that VCR out behind your head and put an old VHS tape in and watch a VHS movie?
Never, unfortunately. I don't have time.
I brought a bunch of VHS tapes, man. Like, I don't know if it's because I was grieving being in North Carolina without my mom being there. And it's like I took all these old VHS tapes and I just brought them all back to New York, not having the room for them at all. And I'm like, I'm going to digitize all this shit. And I think I probably already put it on digital tape, like DV cam. I can't remember. I just brought so much stuff back, and the idea is to codify it or go through it or put it on the computer. And I found a video of my mom the other day, and it was just like, it was beautiful and sweet. But then I'm so Southern. I've got such a Southern accent because I'm from the sticks of North Carolina, and I'm hearing myself talk in the 9th grade, and it's like, oh my God. I mean, like, nothing against the vernacular or the idioms or the vernacular of the Piedmont of North Carolina. But in the 80s, wow, I had an accent. It threw me off a little bit. So you have that stuff for nostalgic purposes. That's stuff that you in your teenage years, and you had those and you wanted to hold on to it. That's cool. I wish I'd have held on to some stuff like that too. I guess I did in some ways. My dreams, I've held on to my bullshit dreams of being a filmmaker. You know what I mean? I should let those go.
No. Hold on. What do you mean your bullshit? How many movies, how many features have you made?
I guess 13 or 14. I could go through them. Is it obnoxious to go through them? Can I go through them real quickly?
Please do.
House of Pancakes, 1996, black and white, 16 millimeter movie, very inspired by Clerks, Richard Linklater, all that shit. I loved it. Great, fun movie. I think I'm gonna redigitize. I brought that back from North Carolina. My first movie, all the 16 millimeter negatives and all the DAT tapes. And I think I'm gonna redigitize that stuff and maybe get a 2K or 4K transfer and re-edit it, I think, and get it out in the world, because I'm very proud of the movie. And it also, when it was made 20 years ago, it never had a proper sound mix. And actually the person who output the movie to digibeta tape fucked up the audio, and it's never had a proper release. Sergio Lapel's Drawing Blood, my second movie, sold to Troma in 1998. Proud of that movie. Came out, we shot that on 16 millimeter, and it came out on VHS and DVD, and it's on the Troma streaming site. Very proud of that movie. Ding-a-Lingless, 35 millimeter. The Pigs, my first foray into HD, and it was a disaster, but it's had some interesting ideas. And the 10 movies that I've made in New York. So Richard's Wedding, Summer of Blood. I'm so obnoxious. I'm sorry I'm doing this. It's like, no. I'm so numb. My brain is such Swiss cheese these days, maybe from the COVID deteriorating my brain, that the only thing I can talk, it's like, I can make a list. I can make a list of all my movies. I'm an idiot. I'm not going to continue this. I've made, 13, 14 movies, 13 or 14 movies.
So when you talk about, I don't remember what the phrasing was, but your ridiculous dream of being a filmmaker.
Yeah, right.
Is that to mean?
Well, come on, man. It's like, I feel like I can make a movie that I think would do okay in the marketplace and maybe get into the festivals. No, I can't, because the things I want to say are, I don't know. That's not true. Scenes from an Empty Church should have gotten out major festivals. It should have played major festivals. It's like, all right, give me a fucking break. It's a COVID movie that's very relevant, timely. And what the fuck's the problem? Is it because it's about Catholicism? It doesn't completely shred it and rip it apart and shit all over it? Is that why? Because movies that shit all over Catholicism do okay. Movies that are somewhat, that's not true. You can't just shit on Catholicism in movies. There's always a sense of respect in even most major movies regarding it, Well,
I want to ask you about that, because I watched Summer of Blood again last night with my wife. She hadn't seen it the first time. And the first hour, I mean, it's an hour and 24 minutes, whatever, was very kind of, I'd say the first 45 minutes was really rough, because the character you play, Eric, even before he becomes a vampire, it's like the first couple of scenes, my wife was just tearing her hair out. She couldn't believe how obnoxious your character was.
She didn't find it funny at all, right? She didn't find it funny at all.
She kept poking me and saying, "This is what it's like talking to you a lot."
So then she loved every minute of it. Then
no,
you don't know, she hated it.
No, but the thing is, by the end of the movie, she was really into it. And because it's not this thing where you're meant to love this character and everything he stands for, and that he's getting away with being an obnoxious prick, he does get his comeuppance from a lot of the people he interacts with, and even kind of cosmically,
I don't agree with you on that. He does not get his comeuppance. I think he gets everything he ever wanted, doesn't he? But go ahead.
Well, he gets, I think what he wants changes,
Of
throughout
course,
the course
100%.
of the
Well,
film.
that's yeah.
Right, because sort of his cosmic comeuppance, a reframing of what he wants, because all he wants to do is, be in a relationship without the responsibility to have great sex, which he can't do until he becomes a vampire, and even that becomes unfulfilling. He finally ends up with, the woman he was, with throughout this entire time. They have their ups and downs, but there's almost a taming aspect to it. Yeah, he's going to be alive forever, but at one point he tries to get out of it. He thinks there's a way to not be a vampire anymore, and he gets his hopes up, and then those are kind of dashed in a very comical way. But by the end of the film, she was on board with the movie.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
told her, well, I was going to say, I told her because we watched Scenes from an Empty Church earlier this year, like a few months ago, because I wanted to revisit that because it was one of my favorite films of last year.
Thanks, Ian.
And I said, this is the same guy who wrote and directed that movie. He's the star writer director of this film. And she couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
You want to talk about how you have or have not changed in the last 8 years. Just looking at the movies that you've made, I've seen a maturation of themes, of ideas, of just attitudes about growing up. I don't think, and I don't know you that well, I don't know if you could have made Scenes from an Empty Church 8 years ago.
No, I couldn't have. And that's an astute and sweet thing for you to say, man. And I do think, of course, I have evolved, hopefully, and matured at least for the subject matter that I'm presenting, and I have more gratitude towards life, and I'm less of a selfish asshole, because Summer of Blood ultimately is about a selfish guy learning to be unselfish, and I think maybe that's why your wife may have responded more positively to the second, the third act, maybe, is he has made a decision to choose selflessness over, it's a life of just cheap sex and that kind of thing. And he wants to feel something. So love is better than feeling nothing but pure carnal lust or whatever the fuck he felt. And also being so selfish that you have to kill other people or bite other people and drink their blood, be a parasite to basically survive. Yeah. And Scenes from an Empty Church, it's about a whole a completely different set of fears and anxieties, than Summer of Blood. And I think Pound Cake, even though it's a absurdist comedy like Summer of Blood, it is way more mature in the things it's trying to say, and it definitely reflects more about with community than individualism. Although there is a sense of like the idea is respect, giving respect to things, I guess. And love conquering all, as superficial and as silly as that sounds. Like, if we're going to truly be empathic, which is what we're all, I think humans all strive for, let's have a real conversation about what that means, and which is, of course, it means it's a million different arguments, obviously.
Well, getting back to what we were kind of talking about earlier, you're right. Empathy is a big word in the culture, but there's an underlying hypocrisy to it, because once again, I'll throw out that term, straight white men. It's like, if we were just talking about how there's a lot of sentiment around, well, we don't care what you people have to say. Where's the empathy?
Sure,
we want to treat everybody with equality, equity. That's what we're all striving for. Unless
it's also so dumb, because what you're doing is you're denying yourself a set of ideas that are not presented, just saying you all have to be quiet so we can talk things out. There's a lot to be gained from the hearing what the so-called enemy or what the antipodal point of view has to say. There's a lot of valuable information in that, and if you're denying that as part of the argument, if you're denying that as part of the information that is there for the argument, it's just absurd to me. It just doesn't make any sense from a standpoint of like progress. All ideas need to be heard for there to be progress.
But
so
that's just, there's a perception of dangerous ideas, trying to shut down speakers, trying to shut down websites, or ban Twitter accounts or whatever for wrongthink. And I'm always of the persuasion that don't ban speech, just have more of it, learn how to engage with it, learn how to ignore it. Because if you suck the oxygen out of a situation, that's better than driving it underground where it can fester and become something
Oh
like a
yeah, no doubt
dangerous
about that.
white
Of course.
nationalist movement, you know?
No doubt. And we're talking about strictly politics here. Now, whatever people want to do with their own personal, what they want to fund movies that where no white men allowed in the movies. If whoever's spending money on that, absolutely, that's your money. If you want to say no white people allowed and no voices in the contemporary culture, white men are always going to have the money to find their own money and speak for themselves, even though what is themselves? A white person, you know, here's the funny thing. You could, oh my God, this idea that I'm blacker than you, or I'm whiter than you, I'm more Middle Eastern than you, like I'm more Turkish than you could ever be because I'm Turkish, I have Turkish blood. It's absurd. It's absurd when you think about the fact that I don't speak Turkish. I've never lived in Turkey. You know what I mean? I'm not, I'm by osmosis and by growing up around my parents and them throwing dinner parties and them watching Turkish television, I've got culturally Turkish. There's some of that in my DNA, cultural DNA, and of course my body and blood, but I am not an American who lived in Turkey for 20 years, speaks the language, you know, and whatever, already is way more Turkish than I'll ever be, you know, in that sense, and knows Turkish politics, knows Turkish history. If there's anyone who should be speaking about Turkey, it's that person, you know, a white person who is cultured and knows the language. Did you hear about this lady? It was in the New York Times. I thought if it came up, let me look at the article. Yeah, Meg Smaker, that's her name. She made a movie called Jihad Rehab that was
I did hear about this.
Have you heard
Abigail
about this?
Disney, yeah.
Lived in the Middle East, spoke the language, spoke Arabic, you know, knows more probably about Islam than most Muslims in America themselves, or American Muslim, American-born Muslims, or American-born Middle Easterners, or Arabs, I should say. And, you know, castigated for being a white woman. How dare her make a film? I mean, I haven't seen the film, so it's not fair, but a lot of judgment was directed at the movie without being seen as well. You know, when it got great reviews initially at Sundance and was lauded as a intelligent and thoughtful approach to, you know, extremism, Muslim extreme terrorist. But, you know, because historically Arab men have been portrayed as terrorists and dark guys. This is just another movie that's doing that, and it's a white savior piece or whatever. It's just the standard, you know, cliches and phrases, and I'm really interested in this movie now, and I want to see it. And I want to research more about Meg Shaker, like whatever her name is. I'm so bad with fucking names now. But yeah, you've heard about it then, right?
Yeah, but just about the controversy, I don't know if is it going to come out now? I mean,
yeah, I think it will come out, and I think she also did like a 3-hour podcast out there. I think I think we all need to listen to the story. You know what I mean? Because this idea that you can spend 2 years or a big portion of your life being passionate about something and then making a documentary about it and then being denied the ability to express yourself or engage in that subject matter because you're not born into that particular bloodline or whatever is so fucking dumb. It's so fucking dumb. And I know there's implications about it, like, well, there's this and there's that, and there's arguments, of course, but it just contradicts everything that was what you're supposed to be in life, which is express yourself any way you want, tap into anything you want, do no harm, the Hippocratic Oath, whatever. If you're doing harm, that's one thing. But so a few people are harmed when you tell them they can be harmed about everything. And they say, you know what, I'm supposed to be offended because a white woman made this. Wait a second, I'm looking at this through a whole new lens because you have the white woman gaze, the male gaze. Thank you, feminists, you started that, whatever. Now it's blossomed. Intersectionality has now made life so great that artists can't even like pursue their passions. You know, it's bullshit. It makes me so fucking mad.
I mean, and I get it. My bigger gripe, I think, is there's this oversensitivity, as you kind of mentioned, but it's not necessarily the groups that should be, quote unquote, should be offended. I mostly feel like it's proxies of people speaking on behalf, like, oh, this could offend people who
I don't give a shit about what offends you. I don't give a shit if you're offended by some microaggression or something dumb that somebody said in the moment. I don't give a fuck. Make something that counteracts that or protest like you're doing. That's great. But I can say fuck you. And just like you can say fuck me back or whatever. don't care though. Everyone is now being told everything. This is supposed to offend you. This emoji, it's condescending, right? I don't, but also too, the press is blowing that out of proportion too. So the press is the press and the media now, mostly in terms of the clickbait bullshit that they put on the internet. It's like the tabloids. Everything's become fucking tabloid journalism, and most of it is not even fucking real. It's all. I know I'm being general and I'm being obnoxious and loud. I apologize. God bless everybody for their opinions. It's just when you start telling a white woman who speaks Arabic and who made a movie about Guantanamo Bay, which is we're approaching the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. We need movies like this right now. These are important for the conversation. To be saying and for the festivals to uninvite her. She was invited to these festivals. It makes me, it almost is a badge of honor when I get rejected from these festivals, ultimately, and maybe I'm sabotaging any chance I have now, but who cares? You kind of wear it as a badge of honor. It's like, that's what festivals stand for. I'm happy to not be excluded, although it could be they just hate my work as well. So,
maybe you should start a festival called the Uninvited Film Festival.
Yeah, I could just be a retrospective of my movies. Probably, if I was going to go through that much trouble, it'd be called the Uninvited. Yeah. Oh no, that's not true. I was invited. Summer of Blood played a lot of festivals. Applesauce played Tribeca. Catfight played Toronto. I played a lot of cool festivals. I can't complain about that. You know what I mean? And
well, I'm just saying, like in general, there are other movies, I'm sure, besides Scenes from an Empty Church or this one that we were just talking about, the documentary, that have been rejected because of reasons that possibly have nothing to do with the quality of the work. Maybe it's too hot button or controversial, so-called, but
sure.
Have a space, have a festival, and just market it towards people. It's kind of like the banned book section in Barnes and Noble. We look at it now and laugh, but there was a time when people were like, you can't read this, it's too dangerous, and these became modern classics.
Sure, 100%. But going back, can we just go back for a second back to the whole banning of like how film festivals would ban Meg? God damn it, my fucking brain is so fucked up. Whatever her name is, Meg Smacker. Well, that's easy to remember, obviously, for misogynistic and assault reasons. Meg Smacker, right? Smacker for her view. How dare her make this movie about jihadists who are reformed or whatever? At the same time, you can't completely fault what would be perceived cowardliness or whatever, being a coward from Sundance and South by and whoever else that retracted, or Sundance, South, whoever disinvited her to play this movie at the festivals. You have to, at the same time, if these festivals are supposed to be bastions of progressivism and liberal thought, if someone's called you Islamophobic and says you're Islamophobic for putting this movie in your festival, you have to, now, because of the way everything's so incendiary and there's timbers that are going to catch on fire at any moment, you have to basically say, no, you can't show the movie because these Muslim people are, because of their entitlement, they're saying you're entitled to make a film about their subject. Hey, Muslims, people can't just make movies about jihadists anymore or extreme Muslims?
Well, I honestly, I think there should be. I just think there should be a requirement. You cannot.
A culture of ministry. A culture of ministry is what you want. A set of rules that people have to follow in order before they make something of a certain.
No. I'm talking about a requirement of the criticism. I should not have to listen to what you think of this movie until you have watched this movie and can tell me why it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you that people are like, oh, this is going to offend people. Oh, we can't show this because someone might get their feelings hurt. I don't believe that those are the people from the Muslim community. I think it's a bunch of guilty white liberals saying that Muslims will probably be offended by this, because I would be, because I'm, pearl clutcher.
No.
But they also probably have not watched the work and seen, and I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. But from what I've read, it is an empathetic piece kind of talking about what has led, what could lead someone to become a terrorist, and thereby educating people on, helping folks take a step back from that ledge,
Of course, absolutely. All those things, a thoughtful approach that gets people having a conversation, revisiting what, so many things that it aids the society in, a movie like that. And if you disagree with it, it's helpful. Because you disagree with it, it's helpful. But yes, they should watch it. answer a set of questions that say, look, you watch it and thoughtfully answer these questions. Why is it A, B, and C, or why is it that a white woman can't understand this topic more than you because you weren't there for 2 years interviewing people? Because there's no truth in documentaries when you're interviewing people at a prison, you know, and because she's white, that's they're gonna give different, whatever the fucking reason. Just my move. Pound Cake also has a theme of like, everyone just shut the fuck up. Talk about, I mean, let's all exchange our views. That's great, but also just, I mean, this. I read a book recently. Oh, God damn it. My brain again. I hope it's not COVID. It might just be I've got too many things. I don't have enough real estate. I don't have a hard drive space in my head. But, and again, like Tar and Kate Blanchett calling the person a robot, they had this moment in the book that I read that equated like justice, perceived justice, and social justice movements now. It's just another word for revenge. Let's just call it fucking revenge. And, you know, the book is a lot more stretched out than that. There's a lot more going on, but that was, I just felt like, yeah, if you break it down, you can see that in so much of it, you know, of cancel culture coming. You fuck over a few powerful people in your life, you know what I mean? You really fuck them over, or you offend them, people can bring you down so easily. But also it's earned. You earn it too. You can earn it. But you know, whatever. I'm so sorry, Ian. This has got to be boring the fuck out of you. I'm enjoying the conversation though.
No, I'm enjoying it as well.
I just don't feel very smart in my head. I just my brain feels, I don't know, it's in an abstract place. And again, maybe it is my brain. You know, the thing is, my brain, it's probably, I'm exhausted mentally probably, and because I've got too many things I'm working on, and I need to get a bunch of things done and take a break. Although I'm not going to, I'm going to jump right into another movie, but I should take a break. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the same way. You know, when it comes to downtime, it's like my downtime is reading something in preparation for a show or, you know, a project, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I think if I had to guess, what you're experiencing is something that I experience all the time. I'm sure a lot of people in this age we're living in experience, which is you have a lot of thoughts swirling around in your head because of all the inputs, and you don't necessarily have the outlet because, frankly, a lot of the things that we're saying on this podcast could be considered dangerous, incendiary, whatever. But we're having an open conversation. I feel like those are not, especially ones in public, those are increasingly rare. So it is sort of a madness. You almost feel like you're gaslighting yourself. Like, am I a bad person? Am I a racist? Am I a misogynist because people are telling me that I shouldn't be thinking these things? I saw a tweet the other day that said something about, you know, white people, you know, they say that they complain that they can't say anything anymore. That's just, you know, imagine all the hateful stuff that they're actually masking. You know, if they could say the things they say, they're probably masking things that are 10 times worse. I'm like, that is a point of view, or it could just be that they just feel stifled in the ability to have conversation and maybe learn from other people just by asking questions or even expressing opinions that someone else could say, that's wrong. Here's why. I'm not going to cancel you. I'm going to educate you. Or maybe they can educate someone else who has a bunch of opinions they think that the quote unquote enemy has that might not be as bad as they think that they are, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, of course. If you had I don't know, what is the world stage, and you have all the continents represented, you know, can you imagine if they're all there, you know, Asia's there, and Africa, and the Middle East, or India, whatever India's not a fucking continent, it's on Asia, right? I'm an idiot. You have North America and South, and the white guys not being allowed to speak. That's just an impossible thing to imagine. It's not even worth imagining because it's so stupid. You know, Art, I am a straight white guy, dude. I see myself that, you know, you see yourself as, you identify as a white guy.
I identify as me. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, when I was coming up, it was kind of cool that I had a black dad and a white mom. You know, I thought about it a lot more But then I just kind of stopped thinking about it because my parents were like, it doesn't really matter. I was not immersed in, my dad never said, oh, well, your family, our family was a bunch of slaves and we've had it so terrible in the 1960s. Like, we never made any progress and things are just as bad in 1995 as they were in 1964. No, he always talked about he was part of the movement. He was part of trying to bring people together and create equality. And isn't it great that we've moved past all the bullshit and people just deal with each other? There's always going to be assholes and, certain institutions that need to still be, reckoned with. But by and large, things are pretty good right now. And I don't think if he were alive, he would recognize what things have become, because it's not the way I was raised.
100%. Of course, Americans are spoiled. We have things pretty good here, like,
I mean, if you think about what's going on in Ukraine right now, completely bombed out cities. I mean, I can't imagine, we are ill-equipped for any kind of invasion or bombing or Walking Dead situation. Yikes.
compare yourself not just to Ukraine, but most countries. It's better to be here, I would think.
But America sucks, don't you know? It's we're terrible.
Americans are pretty terrible. I would agree with that.
I would not.
I know. I agree with you. We're not terrible. They're awful. Americans are awful. But I think but if you're a misanthropist, or what is that the word? Someone who doesn't like, there's misogynist misanthropist. Is that
a misanthrope?
Misanthrope. God damn it. If you have those tendencies, and some days I do and some days I don't, yes, we're good. People are good. People are mainly good. There's a couple of bad people, and everybody has a potential to be bad, I think. It's that, did you ever see Crimes and Misdemeanors, Woody Allen's Crime and Misdemeanors, speaking of old white guys, in late 80s? It's about two storylines. Woody Allen plays a documentary filmmaker who's making a documentary about his brother-in-law, who's an obnoxious documentary filmmaker as well. And then it's about Martin Landau plays an eye doctor who has a mistress who is, threatening to upend his life, and he pays to have him killed. It's a fucking fantastic movie because it blends absurdist comedy with a very dark kind of crime that happens. It's so fucking beautiful. And why am I bringing it up? Because the eye doctor, you would never think would do something terrible. So what? So people do bad things. And is that a metaphor for Woody Allen's life, that he was covering up something? Because the eye doctor gets away with murder by the end of the movie. And of course, where now it's just ridiculous. Obviously, it's a metaphor for Woody Allen having, been a pedophile his whole life and all the things he got away. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, man. I'm sorry I can't give you, you're throwing. I feel like we're having a decent conversation, right? Although I'm all over the fucking place.
No, and I'm right there with you. We do have to wrap it up in a few minutes.
Of course, without a doubt. Ian, it's yes.
But there is one thing I want to touch on beforehand, before we go, because it's the other. I don't know. You're involved in like a billion projects, right? And one of them I thought was pretty awesome.
And let's make a movie.
Let's make a movie.
That's awesome. I love that you have that. Your 5-year-old, did you read it? Did your 5-year-old read it? Tell me how you could say they hated it. I don't want kids to read it because I don't think kids should be filmmakers. I think it's not. I guess white boys should find something else. That's not true. I'm just kidding. So what did your tell me why you bought it, what they thought, or say whatever you want to say, and I'll answer any question you want me to answer.
Well, I bought it because I think you had posted something about it on Facebook that you and David Gordon Green, the director, you collaborated on a children's book about making a movie. And I was like, that sounds really cool. I've got a kid, and it's a children's book. So ordered it, read it to him. He really loved it.
Did he?
The cool thing is he did, because we watch movies together. My oldest son hates movies,
Yeah.
but with my youngest, we've been going through a bunch of like older superhero movies and things like that. And he really loves the medium, but he doesn't know anything about how they're made.
Oh,
so
interesting.
he loves, like spaceships and ray guns and stuff. So when we're reading about in the book, like getting the shot, or we began shooting,
Yeah.
I had to stop and explain shooting means something different when you're making
Oh,
a
that's
movie in
cool.
terms
Oh,
of like,
yeah.
like ray guns and
Yeah,
stuff.
of course. Yeah, yeah.
And but the book goes through everything from concept to end credits, to marketing the movie, all of this other stuff, but it's in terms that anybody can understand. You don't have to be a kid to look at this and be like, oh, here's that's what a key grip does. That's, the producer and the script
Yeah.
supervisor and things like that.
But I
So
think it's
it's
told
cool.
in an interesting, clever way. That's just not like, hey, the gaffer is the one who fixes the lights. Although I think I have that maybe in there, but it's not just like it's not like a guidebook. It's an actual story. So I think it's I never thought of it in terms of a kid reading it and not knowing, already being familiar with it. What's strange, I didn't even think about the idea that it would be like discovering how a film is made, which obviously that's how we designed it. I mean, it's obviously for someone who's, we go through the whole process, but I never imagined what it would be like for a kid if it's an interesting discovery, if they're like, wow, because they already know, they're bringing knowledge to it already because they've seen movies, so they're seeing behind oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So what was the inspiration for writing and drawing this book?
It was during COVID, and David and I had worked on this movie book called Legend of Halloween, which is a children's book adapted from John Carpenter's original Halloween, the 1978 movie, for like not teenagers, kids who are like 9 or 10 years old, who like Halloween, whose parents let them read horror, engage in horror culture. And it's also completely rated G, like, even though right PG, there's murder and death, and of course a little a little boy, 5-year-old boy, stabs his 16-year-old sister. So yeah, it's definitely but it's for for people who have a macabre. We made this book, and I had been working. Had been working on a children's book about kids making a movie, but it was not beyond like the first draft or so. It was something I'd done maybe a year or two before, and I was like, David, let's make another book. It's during COVID. I've got time, and so we put out the manuscript, and he took a crack at it, edited it, and added to it, and I went back and forth, and we probably did 10 versions of that draft. And the way we did, I mainly drew the pictures, but we would discuss what's in the frame, and I would send little sketches to David and descriptions of what the pages would be, and he would chime in on, let's add this or that, or have the dolly be curved or whatever. So it was a nice, fruitful kind of collaboration, coming. And so we made 2 books very quickly, the Legend of Halloween book, and then Let's Make a Movie right after. And it's fun. He's got 2, I guess his sons are maybe 9 or 10 years old, between 8 and 10. So he liked the idea of making something that his 2 boys, his twin sons, would want to read, And I think he's talk about a workhorse, talk about somebody with so much going on. He's just so inspiring, but also infuriating in so many ways, because he's so prolific and productive and so focused. And, I can only get a couple of things done during the day. Even it feels like every month or so, it's less and less that I can get done. Again, I'm blaming COVID, long form COVID on this, or am I blaming the still grieving of my mother's death, or just the ultimate dread of the world? I don't know, but I love making children's books. It was a lot of fun making these 2 books. And, David, of course, it was just like, as soon as I told him I had a children's book idea for kids making a movie, like, he was like, that fucking sounds incredible. Let's finish that. Like, he was very enthusiastic about it. If he didn't want to spend the time on it, we worked on it I guess we did both books over about a year and a quarter, not working full time, of course. I mean, if you look at the artwork, it's pretty primitive. I'm a much better artist than I am than the book for Let's Make a Movie. I'm much better. The style of that is a little primitive, but I like it. I vouch for it. I stand by it. I like it a lot. And it's selling steadily, but we think that it's the kind of book that you might buy to someone who's graduating high school and wants to possibly go into making films, or someone who's going to film school. You know how they'll give someone who's getting married or graduating high school or college all the places you'll go, the Dr. Seuss book. I think that's kind of a cliche gift, and what a great gift! All the places you go, getting a children's book from an anti-Semitic old white guy who I'm kidding around. I Dr. Seuss, I read his biography. But then again, I don't know. It's allegations of anti-Semitism. and he didn't have, it's what does that mean? Like how am I supposed to talk about Dr. Seuss? Anyway, okay, so I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. We want the book, or thought the book could possibly be a gift like that you would give to someone who graduated film school, or was going to film school, or again, going to high school, graduating 9th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade. Birthday present, I don't fucking know. I just know the kids so far that I've heard that have read it like it. And if it doesn't scare parents too much to have someone who made a movie like Pound Cake about a guy killing straight white men in the most terrible way possible, if you don't mind that person indoctrinating your kids with my subversive fucked up stuff, there's nothing subversive in any of my children's books. I mean, you can't even, I've been an overt filmmaker. There's no subtext in my movies. It's all on the surface. That's the thing about Tar that I think is very interesting, though, is it seems like a surface movie. There's so much more going on. It's so layered, and it's so fair, I think, to all sides. I have to watch it like 5 times to get it. Thank you for buying it, Ian. I appreciate that, and that's very nice of you. I wish people would buy the book. I think it's a great book. I think aren't there it's clever, right? Didn't it make you chuckle a few times? I mean, there's some adult jokes in there, and
there is. I mean, there's a line about someone getting fired for inappropriate behavior,
right?
But
it's
it's just like a thing. It's one of those things, and I described this to a friend of mine. I said, there's jokes in it that you hope your kids are not with it enough to get.
Yeah, right.
But there's also, there's references to Chan-wook Park, to Ed Wood, the Jaws poster in there. It's great for film geeks, and also for kids, I think, who will read it and they'll be like, well, what's that all about? And then you can have, like all good children's books, it opens up a conversation.
Well, the guy, the director in there trying to make the movie, who's losing his mind at one point, he says, I wanted to be Spielberg, but I'm more like Ed Wood Jr., like you're saying. And it's almost like an insult to Ed Wood Jr., which isn't fun, because although he died, depressed and alcoholic and everything, he was prolific until the end. I think, like, he was churning out novels, and he had not abandoned art, I don't think. I heard tragically that, like, a lot of unpublished manuscripts and books were thrown away, by the landlord after he died. It's just like, that's the story, at least. And maybe that's okay, because he left behind so much stuff, and it's stuff I'm never going to consume, but he's got a body of work. So, Ed Wood Jr., I have to say, is someone I admire greatly. And hopefully I probably end up just like him, feeling ignored and just drunk and angry. Although I don't know what he was like at the end, I don't know what he was like at all. I don't even know his work, really. I just know Plan 9 and the Pull the Strings, the original movie that was based on. Was that Pull the Fucking Strings? Which one was that?
Yeah, that was or no. I'm gonna get it mixed up.
I don't even think I've seen Glenn or Glenda. I've had friends who loved Ed Wood, and they tried to, and I've watched a little bit of it. But of course, the Tim Burton movie is the charm. That's where you fall in love with them. I love movies about making movies, and about again, the book was like our way of telling a story. If I could go back and make a movie about my childhood, I would definitely have the movies we made, in 6th and 7th grade, be part of that experience, the crazy Halloweens that we experienced, egging cars and rolling yards and going to haunted houses, but ultimately making movies and trying to kiss girls. That would be like a lot of it,
Well, why are you making that movie?
Well, that's period piece in the 80s, and that's need some money for that. And that would be like that would be something that would come from having a lot of success, and like, hey, people are interested in Spielberg's got a movie about his life growing up, right? Did he just make it or something?
It's coming out, I think, next month. Yeah.
Is it about him making kid films as a teenager?
From what I understand, it is autobiographical, but it's fictional. I think. I haven't seen it, but I know some people who hadn't said it's pretty good. Yeah.
When I think of my life, I think of Spielberg and Ed Wood Jr. That's why, I have that much of an ego about how talented I am, and that much self-hatred, so much self-hatred that I would compare myself to Spielberg. That's how much I hate myself. I love Spielberg. I'm kidding. Jaws is my fucking favorite movie of all time, probably.
I want to end on something that we kind of talked about in the middle of this very expansive conversation. You're talking about like getting rejected from festivals and kind of like markers of success. What I mean, what do you want? Do you want to become like have that breakout hit that gets you into the stratosphere where people are knocking on your door and saying, "Hey, come make a Marvel movie"?
No, no, no,
Or
no.
do you just want to be successful enough that you can keep making the movies you want until you're done?
I would like to get a little credit for the movies. I would like someone to say, "Fuck yeah, that dude's why he's got." I don't have. I would like to live another 10 years. I'd like to live to be 60 and have another 5 movies under my belt in the next 10 years, or a novel, or some more art, or maybe even an album. I want to just keep expressing myself based on whatever is happening around me. I'd like to continue to grow up, maybe in some way. I'd like to always remain honest and unapologetic, nothing unapologetic. The idea of being unapologetic these days is absurd. I think you do have to apologize for things, and I think that's what's beautiful of but it should mean something. An apology should mean something. It used to be the thing that erased everything free, and now it's not that anymore. You still get.
Well, now it's an admission of guilt.
Yes, that's true too. I apologize a lot because I piss a lot of people off, and my guilt, I see. I don't piss a lot of people off when you're honest. Sometimes people don't want to hear the absolute truth. Whatever that means. I mean, ripping someone's art apart, or ripping someone's soul apart, or okay. So what do I want in the next 10 years? I'd like to live another 10 years. Ian. I'd like to make some more movies. I'd like to make a movie in Turkey, very much so. And I think that might be, again, if I am lucky enough to live, again, I'm thinking about death all the time now. Nuclear war, my mom's dead, long-term COVID, whatever the fuck, feeling like shit, always thinking about that. I would like to clear my plate, sorry to say that, but get some stuff out of the way that I've done, finish this fucking novel that I'm doing, not lose my mind, keep paying my bills, getting freelance gigs here and there that don't occupy that much of my time. That's a good thing about being a bachelor who has a very simple life, is you don't need a lot of money to pay for that lifestyle if you have a very simple lifestyle. Yes, just keep making more art and become more open-minded and more a better person, more empathic, but also not lose the fear to be righteous, even if you're wrong. Extricating hate, obviously, if there's hate there, admitting to my horrible flaws, which, no, we're not working towards some perfect moralistic person where it's not achievable, it's so what do I want? Yeah, that's what I want. Live to be 60, make another handful of films, finish a book or 2 or 3, and make an album. I'd love to make an album at some point. Just keep making art. Hopefully I will never lose the confidence to do it. I might lose the ability to be a good artist, and I might not be a good artist now, but as long as I don't lose the passion, the belief in myself, the confidence to do it, the thing is, there's a bit of melancholy, I guess, that drives a lot of this. I read this book that I talk about all the time, Against Happiness. I mean, sadness is a thing that fuels, I think, a lot of art, a need to want to express yourself, to get a point of view out there. I don't know. I'd like to not be driven by the melancholy for a while. I'd like to be, Saints from an Empty Church was more hopeful, more positive. Ultimately, Pound Cake is one of my most positive movies. It has an extremely positive ending about community and working together to stop the insidiousness that might be causing these terrible things. I don't want to give too much away, but I'd like to, evolve in my work and make things that are a little bit more, not spiritual, but positive. Even spiritual. Why the fuck not? I don't mind. Although it's just, that's a whole nother conversation. I'm sorry, I've been all over the place tonight, but it's great talking to you, and it's been a lot of fun. Again, I'm trying to get to a headspace where I'm like back to that headspace I was before, maybe, I don't know, COVID, or no, I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. I want to get to a headspace where I'm just not questioning what I'm saying before I say it too much, or self-editing too much, you know? I mean, it's good to think things through before you speak, but also back myself into a corner or find myself in a maze where I'm like, I don't know what to choose to say. And I'd rather just say what pops in my head at the moment, which again, might not be the most interesting conversation, but it is to me, because then I'm like not thinking about it too much. Then I'm enjoying it. It's like swimming or something. Like, and I just won't beat myself up for how dumb I may have sounded, or how, primitive or closed-minded or whatever. Just allow myself to just be the mess that I am, I guess, which is why I make movies and art to begin with, I guess, just trying to put some structure into the stupid shit twirling in my head like a really weak, like category 1 tornado, it's just, maybe it was 4 or 5 at one point, but now it's just, so.
Well, it's got to come out, and I'm hoping, I can't wait to see Pound Cake. And
I'm looking forward to you seeing it. Yes. I hope it plays. If it plays at a reputable fucking festival next year, oh man, I'm telling you, the Charlotte audience, black people, white feminists, straight white men, middle-aged, like conservative white men, and very liberal, progressive white men, and progressives and conservatives on all sides of the spectrum. Again, we're talking about 40 people here, and I knew maybe 10 of them. So, but I don't know. People seem to appreciate it quite a bit for what it was saying, like they found it very refreshing. And how we did this magic trick where we took a movie that on paper should have been really offensive, but was just like, wow, almost like a veil lifting in terms of saying things that are supposed to be, you're not kind of supposed to say now, but kind of work in a way, I don't know. I love it. It is so controversial. I think the problem will be, I bet there'll be some festivals that are like, man, this is cool, we want to program this. I'm guessing, and there'll be 1 or 2 people that are like, fuck him, fuck this movie. You know what I mean? No, it contradicts everything, the mission of what we're trying to do.
Well,
it's a satire,
again,
all bases are covered. It doesn't preach. It takes there's no point of view, although there's a lot of point of views. I'm sorry, say what you're going to say.
Well, I was going to say, the people who would reject it, especially from a festival standpoint, would you get the sense that they would have watched it, or is it, I don't topic
know.
alone?
I don't even know. You hear that they watch every minute, but I could see 20 minutes in or 30 minutes in, like somebody watching it and thinking, oh yeah, okay, yeah, and then something happens. It's like, that's just too far. No, that's too far. That I could see that, even though a scene later will kind of contradict whatever that thing is that maybe we'll have your side of the argument. Maybe. I imagine people could turn it off. I'm trying to find a way. I've always, I guess, been trying to find a way to just embrace what I can control, things that I have control over, which is, I can make movies of a particular budget my way. And I know how to get those movies made. And I'm trying to challenge myself and push the envelope a little bit, not just in terms of subject matter, but also production wise. I mean, this movie, Pound Cake, has 40 speaking roles, 14 locations. It's the kind of, and it looks and feels, it still feels like a small movie in terms of, we don't do sweeping crane shots, and there's not like Hitchcockian action scenes because we just don't have the bandwidth or the time to do that. Although, and the action scenes they're not, Spielberg, they're like the Spielberg calendar, not even close, but they're effective. They work. The verisimilitude, I think, is captured, but the performances, that's where the value of this fucking movie, and of course the writing, and you can't get good I mean, you cast well. That's what a good director does. You cast well and massage a little bit, but man, the performances, and these are all non-SAG actors, and they are fucking brilliant, and they deserve. You talk about like wanting to adopt a policy of like diversity, lots of voices. This movie, all of the actors on stage, because I think they're going to be very proud of the movie. They all got the script quite a bit. There's some white men in the movie. They're mainly props to be killed, but most of the characters are, they're non-white and actors, and they're amazing. And that was by design, yes, but it's also about a lot of different things. And there's a lot of humanity. It's about competition and about acceptance and about sexual identity and sexual politics. And there's a lot going on. And it's the kind of thing that maybe that stuff is not really, I don't get the credit for those kind of ideas, or like the intelligence of my movies, because I think this is me, because I'm just like, I'm not, depending on what mood I'm in, I don't seem like a serious writer or filmmaker or person, I guess. I'm also mocking. I'm not mocking. I'm celebrating our differences. Pound cake's cool. I'm really proud of it. I'm super fucking proud of it. And what I've been going through the last hour and a half, rambling and talking like this, it's not indicative of how I am in my life. It's just talking on a podcast now with all the things going on in my head. I want to be real, and I don't quite know how to be unless this is how I act in front of my friends. If I'm if I'm having a beer or whatnot, if I'm not exhausted and I'm wound up and I'm having a conversation, this is how I'd like it to be, where I'm not judging what I'm saying or not caring if I sound like an idiot, just trying to focus too. I'm sorry, I've focused on, you've said so many intelligent, amazing things, but a smarter person could have taken the things that you said and expound on those things, and it would have been interesting. I am like a tennis ball, man, a bowling ball rolling down a hill and just careening off a cliff, and but it's fun. It's fun talking to you. Also, I smoked a little weed before I got on the thing, and I never normally do that. Maybe we can should we cut that? Or that should be I normally don't smoke weed before.
It's legal now, right? So
well, I normally don't smoke before I go on a podcast, but I honestly felt like, Ian, that was the only way I could get kind of, maybe I should have not smoked. Has this been obnoxious the last, hour and a half? No,
I just wish that I had more time to talk to you and get into stuff. I definitely want to have you back and talk about, like, I would love to just go through all the 13 or 14 movies in your filmography and break them down, because
I would love
from
that.
what I've seen, they're amazing.
I would love that. Listen, also too, I'd love to be part of that production, because I could, if we have a conversation about that, talk about each film for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I could provide little snippets I could cut in those clippings as we're talking, just to give it a visual flair. It's like, oh my God, he's really going to edit his own podcast about his own work. Well, fuck yeah, because I think it's an important podcast, because there's some good movies in there. Most of them are very good, I would say. And not to toot my own horn, but you have to love your work or you can't keep doing it. Like, you can hate it. I've had experiences where I hated the movie I was making, and hated it for quite a long time after I made it. But I've learned to, it's a part of me. It's a record of what I was going through for that 2 or 3 years, or a year in the case of New York, the last 10 years, making a movie a year, basically the last 10 years. I'd like to stop doing that. It's just so much fucking fun. It's terrible too. Pound Cake was a nightmare, but it was so gratifying, and I'm so glad the movie exists. It's meaning. I get meaning out of, you get meaning out of this. Are you also? I can't remember if we talked about this. Do you also write? You do write screenplays and plays, or you do that? You don't do that at all. No interest in that, right? Like,
it's not so much a matter of interest. It's a matter of, like, time. I mean, I was trained as a visual artist, so I'll do drawings and things like that. Occasionally.
I think I knew that. Did we talk about that? I think I knew that, right?
Maybe I don't remember. Like
New York. Say it again. You're about to say?
Oh no, I was going to say, like, every morning I spend, well, now because I've got 2 kids in school, I draw like little Post-it notes, cartoons and stuff for my kids to put on their lunch boxes. So when they get to school, they can open up their lunchbox and see a funny little, thing.
Oh,
but that
cute.
Takes an hour and a half.
Wait a second. Time. Did you do these every day?
Yeah, every day that they have school. Yeah.
Did you post something on Facebook of all the ones that you've done?
Yes, I've done those.
You're a fucking genius. Good God, those are incredible. Why don't you publish? Well, you should. How many have you done? Those are amazing.
Oh, hundreds. I've been doing it since my oldest was in kindergarten.
Can you cut some of them into this? Can we look at some of them right now? I'm not right as we're speaking, but in the look at how beautiful those are. If you decide to cut those in, I saw that and I couldn't believe it. They're in color, a lot of them.
Yeah, they're all
I mean,
marker
and really
drawings. Yeah.
detailed.
It's gotten a lot worse. I mean, better, but worse because
You mean your compulsion to do it?
Yeah, and to get more detailed with like the line work and stuff.
Wow.
And yeah.
Wow, you're more of an artist than I fucking am. That's amazing. Would you ever want to do a graphic novel? I'd love to. I wish I had the stamina and the skill and the patience to do a fucking graphic novel, because to me, I mean, look, all art forms are amazing. The novel, the album, of course, the movie. The graphic novel has a special place in my heart. You know, the cartoonist has a special place. Do you ever think about that? You ever think you'd want to do it, or do you like graphic novels?
Yeah. Oh, I love graphic novels. And I like to read them. I've always thought about doing something, but again, it's like my time is already splintered up into, I never sleep. So it's one of those, if I ever give up podcasting, I'll probably go back to doing something in the visual arts, and maybe someday, but who knows?
Oh man, well, you haven't given that up, because that muscle is working better than ever, right? You've honed that skill, and oh my God, yeah, that's wow, that stuff's amazing. That's so beautiful, and it's witty and funny. It's like they're like personalized cartoons for your kids, right? Like,
yeah,
that's beautiful. Well, how many would you say that you have?
I couldn't tell you. I'd have to multiply the school days times the days that my oldest has been in. He's in seventh grade now.
When
I've been
did you
doing
start
it since
doing it?
kindergarten.
When did you start doing? You started doing it since he was in kindergarten for the lunch boxes.
Yep. So that's probably, oh my God, that's
Every
probably
fucking
8
day.
years. Every day that he's in school. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Holidays and stuff.
God, I love you. That is brilliant. I love that. So you've got thousands and thousands.
It's probably closer to
about 1,000, right? Probably.
Yeah. And
So
then my youngest is in kindergarten now, so he's got his own
right,
block
of course.
posted,
So it would be, of course, probably 150 for 7 years. That's over 1,000. That's 200.
God.
Yes, you've got to. What do you put them in, a scrapbook or a box, or in order?
I'll have to send you a picture, because we have them actually in frames in our kitchen, and then the ones that don't fit inside the frames, I got them in just like a little box. So my wife's idea is someday we're going to actually wallpaper the kitchen with them.
No, you don't want to you don't want to get those things in danger with the glue on the back of that. You can maybe do a print of them. Yeah, not the originals, obviously, right? Yeah. Wow, that's you're making a really beautiful. That's a lifetime project.
Yeah.
And then when they graduate high school, if you keep it going, when they come special occasions, you'll send them letters and stuff, or you'll have picture. That's beautiful, man. That's really beautiful, and the pieces are beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Oh my God, were you ever into commercial illustration, or did you go to school for that? What did you do with that?
Yeah, I went to the American Academy of Art in Chicago, got my associates, and then in illustration, and then I went to work at a casino gaming company. I think the year after I graduated, and I was there for decades, doing
conceptual
art and
sketches,
art managing stuff. Yeah, and also like full game art and things like that. So yeah, it's been quite a weird journey.
You mean full game art in terms of creating it in the computer, like 3D kind of stuff? Oh wow, you learned
not
all
3D,
that,
but like 2D mostly. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're still doing that now with your job now? What are you doing now?
Well, right now and I don't want to make this about like what I'm doing now, because it's
I
not
love
that
it. We
exciting,
should have. I would love to. I could keep. Listen, I can't talk. I want to do an interview with just you and look at all your work and stuff like that. So, but yeah. What about that's not 3D? It was 2D. And what are you doing now? What are you doing now? Yes.
Right now I'm doing project management for a company, so it's not like artistic at all, but I do have there is a gaming component to it, so I do get to occasionally work with artists and creative people, so it's fun. It's just exercising in a different capacity. Yeah,
100%, absolutely. I mean, it is creative. You're managing this creative machine, which is everybody, and a huge part of that. It's fucking fantastic, man. That's very cool. I did over COVID. I finished a graphic novel that I'd been working on for 10 years, and I finished it. And just printed 1 or 2 copies just to have. Yeah, I sent it to a few publishers like Drawn and Quarterly and whatever, Fantagraphics or whatever. But they didn't get it published. But I'm very fucking proud of this piece. It's like a 252 page
Jeez.
Beautiful. If it was like, I could just grab it and just flip through it. I'm very fucking proud of it. It's an insane little piece. Next time, maybe I'll just flip through it just because you're a real fucking artist and I want to, and those books, the book you're reading is not indicative of the art that I could do. Like, but why not children? You ever thought about a children's book or something, or doing something like that?
I've thought about all of it, but it comes down to time and energy and what I'm really,
Yeah.
interested in. But
Yeah.
anyway, we're going to do a part 2 and probably a part 72.
I'd love that.
I love these conversations, man. But thanks for taking the time to talk about Summer of Blood and Let's Make a Movie and Pound Cake. And there'll be links to all that stuff down in the description. So people definitely check out Onur's work.
Thanks, Ian. I appreciate
you are
it,
one of my
man.
favorite filmmakers, legitimately, because you have something to say. You've got, the ideas behind none of your movies, the ones I've seen, you're in some of them, you write and direct like all of them, but you're hard to pin down in terms of, I don't see you making the same kind of feature twice. They're always wildly different and wildly imaginative and always give me a lot to think about. So thank you for that.
What a great compliment, man. Thanks, Ian. That's very, very nice of you. I appreciate that. I need to hear that. I beat myself up all the time. And it's nice to know that someone like you, a thoughtful, brilliant artist like as yourself, and a thoughtful, intelligent man finds my work intelligent, because I feel like an idiot almost 99% of the times in my life. When I make my art, I feel less like an idiot. I feel like I kind of a decently smart guy with something to say, and occasionally on the right day, if I have the right buzz and this the right subject topic that we're talking about, I almost sound smart too. But in my head, and maybe lately too, because I just got so much going on, just and giving yourself permission to say, don't get out of your head. So much time is spent these days going, what's that movie, or what's that fucking, for me at least, what's that, god damn it, that fucking actor in that movie, and what's that line he said when, and it's just like, so much is just like, where is it? I used to have that knowledge. And it's like, I'm trying to get back to a place of, fuck that. Be aware of like where your, I don't know, cognitive abilities are, or be able to, if you're tired one day, you're not going to pedal so quickly on the bike. You don't always have to sound, if you're tired and you're getting a workout in, if you're having a conversation, everything doesn't have to be intelligent. Everything doesn't have to be righteous or perfect. Everything doesn't have to be even factually correct, because that's just, it's the internet's for, because the internet does not spread misinformation. Obviously, there's nothing. It's so funny. Like, it's water everywhere, not a drop to drink, right? There's a lot of drops. Anyway, Ian, what are you going to do the rest of the evening? What's your plan? I'm going to go see Halloween Ends with a group of friends. My friend David's movie comes out today. It's a very brave, bold way to take the series if you're a Halloween fan, or if you're not. I mean, if you're not a Halloween fan and you're not invested, I think it's going to play really, really well, because you're not going to know what to expect. If you're expecting things because you're a Halloween fan, there's a chance you're going to see something for the first time that's not what you were expecting. It's hard to appreciate it, but I'm a fan of it. I love what he's done, and I like this movie, and I'm going to see it with some friends tonight, and I love what he's done with the series. But he's put himself out there to be flogged by a lot of people. He's a brave filmmaker, as well as just a great fucking human being and film intellectual, and a child at heart, and fucking funny and warm. And I think this is the kind of movie that's going to be appreciated. Like, I think Halloween Kills will be appreciated, and it's already, I think, more appreciated now than it was when it came out last year. I think Halloween Ends will be appreciated as it goes, So, but were you going to say anything about those things in particular? Or?
I've seen Halloween Ends. I watched it this morning.
Yep.
Record a podcast on it earlier, which is going to go up. You're asking what I'm doing later. I'm posting a podcast, and then I'm doing a live stream at 7:30 about the Evil Dead 2. So yeah, and I'm also mixing in day job stuff. So it's a crazy Friday. So
give me your honest assessment of Halloween Ends again. You hated it. You hated it so much. And listen, he takes a lot of big swings. I
He
told
does.
him he already knew people were going to hate this movie. He knew when he was making it that, but he thought, no, people are going to love it too. I think people do love it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's divisive for sure. And the thing is, I liked a lot of parts about it. And I talked about this with David Fowley, my fellow critic on the episode. We were thinking this movie should have been the beginning of the trilogy, because there's a lot of cool ideas that are introduced now that if they'd played out over the arc of 3 films instead of kind of being introduced in the last one.
Sure.
Wow. But
right. It gets problematic to bring it into the last, because you feel like there was it's not part of the trilogy, kind of. It's like its own thing.
Yeah, without spoiling anything here. But hey, real quick, I saw that you were credited as a fear consultant, I think, or something
in the
on
first
IMDb.
2. In this one or the first 2?
The first 2, yeah.
Yeah,
What is a fear consultant?
Yeah, David knew I was a big Halloween fan because I reached out when I found out he was making them. And I was like, David, I'm a huge Halloween fan. If you ever need any help, just let me know. And because he knew I was such a big fan, he let me come and spend some time on set, storyboard a couple of scenes from the first one, read some of the early drafts and let him know my opinion, or throw in an idea or two, a bit of dialogue, not early drafts, but the drafts right before they were going on production, just kind of privy to what was going on, but not having any real input on having input. I would give my ideas and stuff. And every now and then, I think 1 or 2 ideas may have been taken here and there, but I mean, just to be a part of it and to be a sense of encouragement to whatever, just I was a supporter. I mean, like I love David's work. I what he's done with the Halloween movie, I'm very close to it. I'm very close to Halloween. It's my favorite horror film easily, but based on so many things. I mean, Loomis is not brought up in the conversation a lot with Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis gets to take so much credit, and obviously she's a big part of the trilogy. She is the trilogy. It's her trilogy. But man, no one talks about Donald Pleasance. You know what I mean? Like, he is such a big reason why Halloween is mythic to me. Besides the mask and the music, it's the doctor and the austerity, the sadness, the melancholic, the dread. He knows what evil is, and he's so calm as he pursues it, and just these iconic scenes from the original Halloween. David has to be commended for trying to bring him back in part 2. You know what I mean? I think there's it's a playground. I mean, to be able to have those icons and that kind of mythology to play with. And hey, the man has an abundance of ideas. So, they're all there. And I think that's, I don't know, like, is it too much? Is it being bombarded with too many storylines and too many ideas? Part 2 is a very simple movie. Part 3, oh man, I can't speak. Just, it's a masterpiece. It's amazing. I don't quite understand it yet myself. I don't know if I've ever really understood it. I want to say it's a masterpiece because I love David and I want to be a supporter on it. Halloween Kills I've watched 3 times, and it got better each time I watched it. So by the 3rd time, I'm a really big fan because I was able to see past the things that bothered me, the problems I thought were with it. I know they weren't as obvious the 2nd or 3rd time. They almost, in a way, it feels like. So I haven't watched Halloween Ends enough yet to be able to see past things that I feel like might be problematic with it, because again, we're not used to seeing a Halloween film like this. So it's like, whoa, what the fuck am I seeing? And I'm like, I'm not watching it correctly. So thus maybe your mind is trying to process it. I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing it tonight. Absolutely. I mean, I'll be watching it several times. I just think what a brave, insane young man, David Gordon Green, and also a legend and a brilliant human being and philosopher and film lover and an artist, truly. But art is messy. It's it's funny. His movie, the Rotten Tomatoes algorithm is going to be probably split down the middle, if not in the 40s or whatnot, or maybe it might sink lower. Maybe it'll raise, whatever. It's never going to be consensus. Everyone loves Halloween Ends. It was not even designed to be that, I don't think. I'd rather see a movie that I'm more comforted by that than these movies where that get high ratings that don't necessarily deserve them. And there's so many, so fucking many. Where are the critics? Critics are, where are the critics? You're supposed to shit on movies. That's why it's okay for you to say you've hated, obviously, Halloween Ends, and you're going to have a podcast where you skewer it for, I don't know how long you're going to do that, but that's what it's about. You put yourself out there. And also, when you're on top, you're supposed to bring the person on top down a little bit. You're supposed to humble them, for taking a risk. If it doesn't quite work, it's and also horror film, it's supposed to be a punching bag. We're not supposed, when all of a sudden did X, what's the guy who did X? What the fuck's his name?
Ty West. Yeah.
Ty West. All of a sudden he gets to make this movie that's beautifully made. And all the critics are now saying, this is high art. This slasher film, that it's still fucking trash. It's high art all of a sudden. This is what gets to be anointed as like the godfather of like slasher films. Fuck that. Don't kid yourself. Critics should be ripping it apart like they used to. That's what critics are supposed to do. Where's the depth of this movie X that I'm not seeing? It's beautifully made. It's beautifully made, but don't sit there and treat it like it's more than what it is. No offense to Ty fucking West, who's very successful and very good craftsman.
I've not seen X, and I haven't seen Pearl. I'm probably going to wait until the third, because that's a trilogy too somehow. I think is coming out next year. But yeah, I'm curious. I like Ty West as a filmmaker, but he's one of those guys I'm like 50-50 on, his filmography. Some I love and some I really don't.
Oh, that's good. That you are supposed to love and hate a filmmaker who makes a lot of films and it supposedly takes risks. We should be shitting on more things. We can't all just like the same thing. That's so fucking boring. And so many critics now, because they've opened it up, so many critics just, they don't. I can't. I felt like such an old dude back in my day when it was just Siskel and Ebert, man. It was just a better time, and Pauline Kael, and now everybody gets to be a critic and everybody likes everything. God damn it! I'm such an old fucking asshole. But hopefully, with my movies, I think this new movie has a good young point of view, and I think the idea is to not be old, to not just be an old asshole. The culture is wonderful in so many ways about us. We've overcorrected to such a point that I think the right wing now, I mean, they have regulated what is their behavior, which is good. We have learned to be more respectful and not such racist pricks, of course, but you can't call racism and transphobia on everything. People can make legitimate, and you shouldn't shut down a white person because they're white for talking. We just need everyone's point of view. Good God. And again, dissenting point of view is the most important point of view. You need that information. It strengthens when you have someone who disagrees with you, it strengthens your own convictions. Everyone knows this already. Good God, everyone knows this. Ian.
Well, look, yes.
It's so fun talking to you. We talked for fucking 2 hours, huh?
Just about.
Wow. Interesting.
Well, and we will talk more, but not today. Today,
I want to drink whiskey.
See a movie.
I want to drink whiskey next time. And what's the name of your Halloween podcast? Is it this podcast here that I'm on, that you're going to do later with Halloween, or is it a different podcast? You have 3 podcasts.
No, I've only got one podcast. I have a bunch of series that I do, but yeah, the Halloween Ends one is coming out sometime later this evening, and then I'm doing a live stream for October Scare-a-thon at 7:30, which, I mean, you're going to probably be out at the cinema, but if you want, you can listen in later, because we're talking about Evil Dead 2, which is one of my all-time favorites.
Evil Dead 2 is also playing in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Independent Picture House, I think, this weekend. It's maybe are a lot of people showing, I guess, Evil Dead 2 this weekend, or?
I don't know. It's the 35th anniversary, which makes me feel incredibly old, but yeah.
I saw that opening night with my friend Kirk Wilson and my brother Timmer. We saw it, I guess it was 88. I don't remember when it came out. I was probably in high school, a sophomore, a junior, a freshman, sophomore, I think, sophomore and junior. What a fucking great experience. I mean, talk about sitting in a movie theater, having your mind blown. It was like seeing Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, or Back to the Future or something, or Back to School. Like one of those experiences of like, it's just what you're seeing, you can't believe, and you're having so much fun watching an insane man cut his own hand off, running around with a head attached, severed head attached. I mean, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, fucking Bruce Willis, like that was my Charlie Chaplin in that moment, you know? Holy shit.
I think he meant to say Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. What did I say? Bruce
Willis.
Bruce Campbell. Jesus Christ, my brain.
I would love to see Bruce Willis do Ash and the Evil Dead.
I may have what Bruce Willis has. I might have the early stages of that. Is what I feel like. That's terrible to say, isn't it? Terrible to fucking say. God. But you're not aware if you're losing your facilities. That's the scary thing, you know? Yeah. Do I seem completely like an idiot while we're talking, or
no?
Can you be as honest with me now as you were when you were Digital Halloween Ends podcast? Like, can you be as honest?
Yes. I would have exited stage left, 15 minutes in. Okay. Yes. Okay. Cool, I would have found a way to I'm sorry, my connection's bad.
That's good. So if that happens on the third, so if I have deteriorated the next time, it's like, oh my God, yes, anyway, yeah.
It might actually be a bad connection because my it's a miracle that for the 2 hours we've been talking, it's held up, because usually there's some kind of a jitter. But anyway, Onur, I got to run. You got to go. We will talk more, because I'm serious. I want to talk about all your movies, and more than for the just 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like you said. But yeah, thanks, man. Have fun tonight, and we'll catch you later. All right.
Catch you later, man. Take care. Thanks a lot, Ian.
All right. Bye, man.